Welcome parents to Hamilton High School's Parent Presentation Series. We started these parent presentations about 4 years ago because we saw there was a need to provide some support services to parents in our community and within our school. These parent presentations provide a wide range of topics. We have expert speakers that talk about social media, communication, mental health issues, all the areas that teens are going through, and to educate parents on what they can do, resources they can obtain, and just support services. We also have a student educational series at the same time in the evening, so you can bring your child with you and they will go to a separate classroom and they will get education on the same topic. Most teachers give extra credit, but your child will always get 2 volunteer hours for every session they attend. And at Hamilton, we also have support groups that the social workers run. We have support groups for anxiety, depression, and self-harm. We have groups for grief, substance abuse, anger management, and we also provide one-on-one support to students, as well as meet with parents if there's issues you might be struggling with and need some professional guidance. You can come and meet with us. And so at Hamilton, we provide a great deal of services. Please contact us if you need any additional support, or we can sit down and talk about ways that we can help you and your child be successful during these high school years. Thank you so much for coming to our presentations. And these presentations, as you can see, are videotaped and will be available 2 weeks after every presentation, along with the PowerPoint and any other materials. We will have them on our website. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. I was told I have to stay in this box right here because of filming and stuff. Can everybody hear me? I know with the band, I mean, this school is busy. We always got a band concert tonight and soccer pictures going on over there, and I don't know, probably some sort of basket weaving thing, something going on everywhere, somewhere else too. So everybody can hear me all right? Yes. All right. I know adults, you guys are very, I'm the same way. You find your seat and you're pretty much planted. If you can't hear and you want to come closer, because it doesn't look like we're going to fill the room tonight, you can always feel free to come and sit closer. You have to sing I'm a Little Teapot in front of everybody now, because your phone rang out loud. All right, so for those of you guys that don't know me, I'm Officer Quinn. I am the school resource officer here at Hamilton High School. I've been with the Chandler Police Department now for about 22 years, a little over 22 years. I've been here, and I've been the SRO here at Hamilton for about 15. Couple of things I've done. I've been the National Association of School Resource Officers president on a national level. I'm the president of the Arizona, gosh, I can't hear myself think. I'm the president of the Arizona School Resource Officer Association. I've traveled the country as a national trainer, training cops how to work in schools. My biggest thing, that kind of my forte in the SRO world, is violence prevention, school violence prevention, and just everything that keeps your kids safe. That's my goal. Every day coming to work here, my goal is just to keep all your kids safe. Obviously, with everything going on in the world with phones and social media and everything else, I've been working on this and I put this presentation together a while ago, and it seems to be pretty popular. Just in the last week or so, we've done several of these different presentations at different schools and everything else, teaching you guys about social media. What we're going to do today is I'm going to talk to you guys about a bunch of different apps that your kids are using on their phones. All right? It's going to be a little bit eye-opening. You've got some paperwork there, take some notes on the back. I don't have a handout or anything, but they're going to wind up putting this online for some more information. The presentation, it'll wind up being on our website in like a week or two probably, something like that. So you'll be able to download the presentation down the road there. If you guys, parents, if you already don't have a Facebook or a Twitter, get it. Okay, a lot of what I'm going to tell you guys about, you're not going to be able to do a lot about unless you've got an account as well, because you usually have to have an account to see what your kids are doing on their accounts. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit more details, but just know if you're not on social media because you just don't want to deal with it, but your kids are, you're missing the boat and you're missing out on a lot of what they're doing, because you need to have an account as well. Up there's my office number right here. Nobody else answers it. It's my direct office number, and then my Twitter and my Facebook. If you guys have accounts, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, and I post a lot of different tips and things like that, both for parents and for kids on there. Let you guys know when we're doing different presentations and some different safety things. So go ahead and follow me on there, and we'll have some fun. Any questions at all before I get started? If not, just holler them out. If you guys have questions as we're going. I know we're in school, but we're really not in school. You guys are adults, and so am I. So, again, social trends and how it applies to school safety is what we're going to talk about. Don't you just love all the little app pictures that are on the phones? You know, how many of you, is there anybody in here that does not have a smartphone? An actual smart, I call them a computer. I call them a little mini computer. Everybody has one of these? Perfect. Okay, so you scroll through and you look at your little app screen, and there's just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of them. What do they all do, especially if you're looking at your kids' phones? What do they all mean? Because some of those logos you might not have ever seen before. Some of them you may not realize what they do. That's what we're gonna go through some of the apps right now, as far as just getting you all on board. First off, obviously, everybody know this is Facebook. If anybody doesn't know what an app is, when I put the logo on there, please let me know and I'll explain it a little bit more. I think we all know what Facebook is, as far as our kids are concerned. And I have two teenagers also. I got a 17 and a 19-year-old. The kids don't do Facebook anymore, right? Why don't kids do Facebook anymore? It's for us. I look at my kids, I'm like, I'm not old. I'm older, seasoned. In the police department, I've been there, like I said, I've been here for 22 years. I'm considered a vet. I'm a seasoned veteran of the police department. I'm not old. I don't like being considered old, but that's what the kids say. So kids claim they're not on Facebook anymore. Don't believe them, because there's a lot of games on Facebook that your kids like to play. And the thing about the games and everything on Facebook and on social media and some of these other platforms, in order to play the games, you have to be on the site, you have to have an account. And every single game out there has a little chat window. So while your kid's playing a game and you may think it's harmless, oh, my kid's only playing Candy Crush or whatever, but it's a Facebook game, there's usually a chat window there, and people can start chatting with, messaging, and talking to your kids with or without your permission. And you just never know what kind of people are out there. All right? So just be aware that even if they say, oh, I only use Facebook for the games, your kids could still wind up having undesirable people contacting them. Everybody know what this is? Snapchat. This is like the #1 app for teenagers right now. This is the most popular. Facebook has gone by the wayside. Snapchat was created originally so they could post a picture and a little comment, send it to their friends see it, and it, poof, disappears from reality.
Where does it go?
Poof, it just disappears. Nothing disappears. We all know that. And all of us adults, we know nothing really ever disappears. Everything can always be found somewhere. It could be found on the servers, it could be found on your phones. It just takes a lot of hunting. But nothing really disappears. The thing about Snapchat is kids still think, for the most part, things like this disappear, and they're posting inappropriate pictures and things like that. There's a lot of sexting that goes on and a lot of bullying that goes on through Snapchat. All right? The thing about it also is they've changed a lot of the settings on Snapchat, and now there's a new one called like SnapMat or MapChat, or I forget the exact terminology of it, where it will actually GPS where your kids are when they're Snapchatting. And it'll pinpoint it and it'll say, oh yeah, you were at such and such a location during that when you were Snapchatting. Again, you don't want your kids being tracked where they are. Because if your kids are at the park or they're at the playground or something, playing with their phones and doing it, you don't want pedophiles, following and where they are. Your kids should never be GPSed and being tracked by their cell phone usage. We're going to talk about that here in a little while as far as how we get away from that. Okay? Instagram. I think most people have Instagram. It's photo sharing, it's picture sharing. It's relatively safe. The thing about Instagram is kids have multiple accounts nowadays. They have their Instagram account that they tell you about, that they show you, and then they have what the kids are calling a Finsta account, a fake Instagram. Okay, they have all these little code names for everything. So they have what's called a Finsta, where that's where they're doing all their inappropriate message sharing and their inappropriate pictures and just things you don't want to see. You know, your kids use bad language behind your back. They really do. Sorry to break the news to you. Your kids talk like you would never want them talking, and they reveal things you never want them to reveal, but they're doing it behind your back, but they're doing it online, and they just don't want you to know. Because a lot of times what'll wind up happening is things will go on at the school, and we'll talk to the parents, oh no, I've seen their account. And I'm like, really, have you seen this account? And they're like, ugh. And usually it's some sort of derivative of their name. They'll put like a number before their name or something like that, so it's easier for their friends to find them. But for you, it's like, Mom, Dad, no, this is me, Johnny Smith, and everything's fine. And it may be like Johnny Smith, 21, or Johnny Smith, something else. Some sort of derivative of their name so their friends can find them, but they've shown you a fake account, and you're obviously okay with it. So, not telling you not to trust your kids, but don't trust your kids. I have them, believe me. All right, Twitter. Twitter is huge. Everything about Twitter is how many likes, how many followers, how many retweets did you get. Everything with Twitter is numbers. It's a numbers game. The more likes you get, the more followers you get, the more popular you think you are in the world. Anybody remember MySpace from way back in the day? When if MySpace first started and everything? Yeah, I know, I shudder too sometimes when I think about it. What was the most important thing about MySpace? Do you remember?
All about how many people you knew.
How many people you knew and who was in your top 8. Remember? Because with MySpace, you used to be able to pick who your top 8 friends were, and those would always stay on your homepage. So when people came on, it's like, oh, this person's in my top 8, and it was like a status thing. How many people's top 8 can you get? Because again, kids, this means the world to them. This means everything to them as far as all of their status and everything else. They don't understand that it's not, because they're kids. So yeah, MySpace started the whole numbers thing. And again, with Twitter, most Twitter accounts are not blocked. Twitter defaults to a wide open to the public account where nothing is blocked, nothing is private, nothing is hidden. So if your kids create an account and they don't go in there and change all of those privacy settings, anybody in the world can search for them, find out what they're doing, follow them on Twitter. Because it's not like Facebook where, oh, I want a friend request. I send a request. And then what do you have to do as the person being requested? You have to approve it, right? Yeah, or Twitter, you don't have to do that. You can go down the list, follow. And it doesn't even ask permission. It doesn't ask your permission. Oh, so-and-so wants to follow you. Is this okay? So-and-so wants to follow you. Please confirm this. It doesn't. You'll get a little notification. If you don't pay attention to it, you may miss it, and it'll just say, the following people are following you. And again, what does that count for kids? Numbers. That's the numbers. That's how many followers they get. I met a kid a couple weeks ago at a football game. I was working up at Chandler High, and Chandler High was playing that team from Florida. Anybody know when that Florida team came in to play Chandler High in football? A couple of you guys? Anyway, there's a kid on this Florida football team. I guess he's pretty well known. He's nationally ranked and everything else. He's a 16-year-old kid, 30,000 followers on Twitter. And he's for a 16-year-old kid. I'm sorry, you don't know 30,000 people. I don't know 30,000 people. I'm sometimes wondering if I know the 700 people I have on my Facebook account. But kids want all the numbers. So they're accepting friends and they're letting anybody in the world follow them. So just be aware of that kind of stuff. When you look on your kids' accounts, who are these people following? Who are they friends with? A good rule of thumb is if you don't know them in real life, you can't be friends with them on social media. Okay? Anybody know what this is? It's brand new, only like in the last month or so it's come out. Am I moving too much or are good? I moved. You put me in this box. It really hurts. It really is. I'm a mover. Anybody know what this is? Anybody heard of this? It's called sarahha. Okay. This was on. We did a radio. Brooke and I. We're going to meet Brooke later. Brooke and I went on KTAR and talked about this a few weeks ago. It's been all over the news and everything else. Sarahha was created in the Middle East somewhere for, and if I can remember the exact terminology, for business professionals to anonymously give each other constructive criticism on their work performance. What does that sound like?
Bullying.
BS. Yeah, it's going to be bullying. It's exactly what it's going to wind up being. Because what they say they're marketing it for and what the reality is that they use it for are two different things. A bunch of businessmen are not sitting there in their offices giving each other constructive feedback on the way they're working. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Kids are using it, and the thing about it is, you don't even have to have an account to use it. Let's say you have the account. You have a sarahha account, and you let the public know, and you let people know that it's out there. You post it on your Twitter. I have a sarahha account. Anybody who finds that page can leave you feedback, can leave you a message without anybody else, without having an account. When Brooke and I were on KTAR, it was the Bruce St. James and Pamela Hughes show in the morning. He was talking about it, and while I was sitting in the waiting room right outside the studio, we could hear the radio, and he's saying, oh, I'm going to create this account and this and that. We're going to be talking about it. I went onto his page, found his account, and typed in and left him a message, something like, I hate your stupid radio show, something like that. Nothing too bad, but just enough where he would know it was a negative account. Then we go in, and I didn't tell him. Then we went in there and did the radio show, and he starts pulling it up. He's like, oh yeah, let's see what people are saying about me and this and that. He's like, oh, look at this, I hate your stupid radio show. And I'm sitting there across the desk from him, smiling and waving at him. He's like, what? I go, I did that 2 minutes ago, sitting on the couch outside, and I don't have an account. The person leaving the message doesn't even have to have an account, and you talk about completely anonymous, you have no idea who's leaving you messages. It's nothing but bullying. This is one of those apps that if you see it on your kid's phone, time to have a long, hard conversation with them about why they're doing it, and then go ahead and delete it. Okay, your kids do not need this. Sarah, and then H-A-H. S-A-R-A-H-A-H. Maybe throw another H in there somewhere. Yeah, S-A-R-A-H-A-H. If you see this on your kid's phone, conversation with your kids and delete it immediately. There is absolutely 100% no good can come from this. If you look on the Play Store or the Apple Store on your phone, depending on if you have an Android or an iPhone, and look at the actual reviews and stuff like that, it's a crappy app. It really is. Everybody talks about all the faults in it, and breaking people's phones. So one, that's a bad sign, and then two, it's completely anonymous with no good intentions. Anybody know what this is? Nobody? This is Periscope. Okay, this is the platform for the live feeding. There's Facebook Live, there's Twitter Live, there's all these different ways to go live on the internet. Periscope started all of it. And then they sold the app and they sold the rights to it to Twitter and Facebook and everything else. So Periscope itself really doesn't exist anymore as its own standalone app. But this little logo right here always pops up when you're going live from different directions. And kids love to do it. They go live from here. Oh, I'm in the bathroom and I'm doing this, and I'm walking down the hallway, or I'm in my bedroom in the middle of the night. Okay? Be aware if your kids are going live on the internet and posting different things, because as you're going live, I don't know, has anybody ever done a live Twitter, live Facebook, anything like that? So you do it with the front-facing camera. So while you're going live and you're talking to it, anybody can make a comment is showing up on your screen. So while you're standing here with your phone, talking live or doing whatever, anybody who's watching it can leave you a message and start posting comments about it. And that way you can interact with your followers. And again, what are people posting? What are people telling your kids to do while they're going live? I don't know. Better safe than sorry in my world. Yeah, I know, I cringe a little bit too. All right, so just be careful of the whole going live thing. You guys all know what this is? YouTube. I'm gonna try standing over here a little bit now. YouTube. YouTube is great, I love YouTube. Just be aware that you can find anything in the world you want to find on YouTube. You can find anything on YouTube. Anything you don't want your kids being involved in. Things that you don't want your kids to be exposed to. You can find porn. You can find violence, vulgarities, you name it. It is out there. And YouTube has a great parental control system. It says, are you 18 to view this content? Click this button. Last I checked, most 6-year-olds know how to read. And they're like, if I click yes, they're going to let me see what I want to see. So just be aware, because there's a lot of kids out there, they just walk around watching YouTube with their headphones on and everything else. Take a look at it. What are they watching? What are they looking at on YouTube? Look on their accounts. Because the nice thing about YouTube is it does save everything you've watched. You can go into the settings on YouTube and look at your recently watched, and you can go through there and see what your kids have been watching on YouTube. Even if they open it for like a second and close it, it says that they watched it. So then again, parents, we have a serious conversation with our kids. Why are we watching certain things that you do or don't want them watching? Any questions so far? You guys are good? Skype, again, the original face-to-face interaction. The thing about Skype is, as long as you know somebody's username, you can request them and send them a little video, and now they're out there. So who are your kids sharing their usernames with if they have a Skype account? Or are they creating a Skype account without letting you know because they want to talk to their friends? Or maybe you know they have a Skype account because they might have a friend that moved away or something else. Same thing with FaceTime. You could say the same thing with Apple FaceTime with the phone, except FaceTime is used with the phone numbers. So you may know they have an account because their best friend moved to Minnesota and they're communicating. But again, who else are they sharing that username with, and who's trying to get information on them? Just, again, things to be aware of. I know, I'm like a complete downer, right? I tell you the worst horrible things in the world. All right. Any single people in here? Okay, this is Tinder. This is the dating app. The swipe left, swipe right. Tinder, it's marketed as a dating app. In reality, it's called a one-night stand app because it's GPS based. You get on Tinder and you look at it, and it tells you who else is available in your geographic area. Swipe left, swipe right, and you're looking at people based on solely image. Here's the best part. If you go into the Play Store or the Apple Store and you look at the Tinder app, it says marketed for 13 and up. They're marketing this app for 13-year-olds and up. And it is. It's a one-night stand app. If any of your kids have this little logo on their phone, again, you treat it like the other one, like sarahha. Have a long conversation with them and get rid of it immediately. All right?
So it's got like a GPS on it?
Yes. And we're going to talk about the GPS settings in a few minutes and how to disable all that. But Tinder is basically, pick a friend, pick somebody you want to go out with based solely on appearance and location. One night stand app. It's not meant, you're not teaching your kids aren't learning how to, build a relationship or build friendships based on more than just physical appearance. So then what do they go and do? They create this. This is called yellow. And the logo is exactly what it looks like. It's just a yellow box. This is called, they call Tinder for teenagers. Because this syncs up with your kids' Snapchat, Instagram, and I think Twitter now. I think they're all kind of interjoining. GPS based. Find new friends in your area. Again, based solely on appearance, based solely on that profile picture. So your kids are picking new friends to be with on social media that they've never met before just because of a photograph. And it's the same thing, swipe left, swipe right. You swipe right, it tells the other person, hey, they swiped right and want to be friends with you, and boom, there you are. Again, it's very shallow, just appearance-based and GPS-based. And this thing is huge. This thing is blowing up right now. Yes, sir.
Outside of just like one night stand kind of stuff, are you guys seeing or they saying like predatory use and stuff?
Well, yeah, all this stuff could be used for predators because again, it's kind of like back in the day. Who's that profile picture of? Is it really another 13-year-old boy or another 13-year-old girl? You have a 13-year-old daughter and she's just met another 13-year-old girlfriend, or is it some 50-year-old predator that's just blowing up a fake picture all over the internet trying to see how many people he could find? And the problem is, like I said, this thing is GPS based. So if he's looking at this and saying, oh, look it, there's like 3 13-year-old girls at the park right now, I'm gonna go over there. Anything that's GPS based that's tracking where your kids are, is bad. And I'm going to teach you guys how to turn all that stuff off here in a couple minutes. AskFM, anybody heard of this? Another anonymous posting bullying site. I don't hear a lot about this one much anymore, but this was kind of the original throw something out there. It used to be, you want to know what your friends really think of you? Throw a question out there and then people will answer it. And again, it's completely anonymous, and the cyberbullying was going through the roof with this. A lot of people, I don't hear a lot about this one anymore, but it's out there. There's no reason for a kid to have an AskFM account. Am I going too fast? Are we all good? All right, here's the thing, text messaging. Text messages are the original communication back and forth on the phone. Who are your kids text messaging with? Do we ever check our kids' phones and see who they're messaging with and who they're texting with? Because how many text messages do kids do a month? Hundreds and hundreds and thousands probably. Okay? Let's say you're a great parent and you're monitoring your kids' text messages and all that stuff. That is awesome. The problem is there's all these other apps out there that allow kids to text message without using their phone, the Wi-Fi, the phone, the cell service, and their phone number. This one right here is about the biggest one and the worst one out there. It's called Kik, K-I-K. Kids are posting their Kik username because, again, that's all you need is a username. Kids will post their Kik username on their Twitters, on their Instagrams, and it'll say, "Kick me at," and then it'll have their username. So then anybody who sees their Twitter account, which again is wide open, there's no controls on it, can sit there and then send your kid a private message. And it's an app that runs just like a text message. You just go back and forth with usernames. We find a lot of the sexting will go on through here. Back in the day when this one first started, there was a lot of drug deals being formulated through Kik. Because again, you didn't have to use each other's phone number. It was all based solely on a username. So you give somebody a username, and then they can message you, and then you got your drugs, you got inappropriate content, you got all sorts of stuff. And it's not going through my phone, it's not going through my phone number. My parents don't see it, because they just know how to look for my text messages. They don't know to look for the app. There's Kik, there's Text Plus, this one's called WhatsApp. All these different apps out there. I know I'm moving too much, I'm sorry. All these different apps out there that allow your kids to circumvent the normal text messaging and message each other based on usernames and stuff. So you start seeing some of these apps, and there's hundreds and thousands of these out there. I'm just picking the top 3 or so. What you can do is you take your phone. When you go home tonight, if you're really interested in some of this, go home, take your phone, and type in messaging apps. Don't put text messaging, just put message apps. And you're going to see Kik and all these other ones where all you need is a username.
And where do you type that in?
In your search it in your Play Store or your Apple Store. Just messaging apps.
And on their phone?
No, what I'm saying is if you want to look at it, if you want to look and see what's out there, look at it on your phone. And then when you take your kid's phone, you see if any of these apps are on their phone. And we're going to talk about when you grab your kid's phone here in a little while. But here's the big thing that I always tell people. When you take your kid's phone, if you find an app and you find an icon that you don't know what it is, push the button. Push it. Hey, what does this do? Boop. Open it. Because chances are, and I'm willing to bet looking around this room here, not one of your kids paid for their own $1,000 smartphone. I'm willing to bet probably parents, you guys are all paying for their own phones. Okay? Push the darn button. Push it, see what it is. It'll open up and it'll tell you what it is usually. And then you can see the messages and everything else. Don't ever be afraid. Push that button on that phone. Find out what's going on. You paid for it. Here's another thing that's getting popular now. They're burner apps. You can create a fake phone number through an app on your phone. Your kids can do it too. So then they start text messaging through this burner app, and it looks like it's coming from a completely different number. And this is where a lot of cyberbullying and stuff comes into play. Now, most of them are now starting to charge like $2 a month or something like that. But for the longest time, they were free. I had one of these accounts, and it was free for the last 2 or 3 years. And you just create a new phone number, and you can send a text message, and you can pull up your own phone book in the app. So I pull up the phone book, and I want to send my friend Brooke here a text message, but I don't want her to know it's from me. So I pull up my phone book, I send a message to Brooke, and then it says, send it from who? And I just create a fake number. And then she could reply back, and I could have a conversation with somebody with a fake phone number, and they don't even know it's me because that phone number isn't assigned to anybody. It's just one that the app creates. So then what happens is I say something mean, I start bullying Brooke. Brooke goes and does the right thing, tells the administration, tells her parents what's going on. We try to track that phone number doesn't exist. There's no way to trace that number. Cyberbullying at its worst. Your kids don't need fake phone numbers. They don't need burner apps or anything like that. Yes?
So, is there any regulation over
Nope.
things? Like, why do we need these things if we know that they're used?
Okay, so you need a burner app when you start selling things on Craigslist and eBay and stuff. So you don't give somebody your real phone number. You give them a different number. So once you're done selling your product, you're done and you don't have to communicate anymore. That's the official word and why people have all these different apps. Have a different phone number. You know, you're selling something online, give them a different number. You don't want to give them your real number because then now your real number's out there on the internet. It's a privacy thing. But again, everything that's marketed for the right reason on the face value is flipped completely around and used for evil. Just like the sarahha one I was telling you about. Nobody is giving each other constructive criticism on the way they work. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. MySpace, I joked around about that. It doesn't really exist anymore. Musical.ly. Anybody familiar with this? Any of you guys have kids and they do the whole Musical.ly and dance and do the lip syncing and everything? Just be careful because there's some ugly people on there. Know what your kids are doing, especially you guys with daughters. Are they in the bathroom wearing their pajamas and their nighties and things like that, dancing around and bouncing around that's going to drive some pedophile crazy? Because that's what's unfortunately happening out there. Don't let them do this kind of stuff in their bathrooms, in their closets, behind closed doors. You want to have a nice little lip sync party, do it in the living room with the family and make sure they're wearing appropriate clothing. Yes, ma'am.
So what is the app?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's an app where you can make a video of yourself lip syncing a song. It's like a contest between friends and things like that. But again, anybody can kind of search for you if you don't have all your settings right. All of these apps start wide open. So you have to be aware and know what your kids are doing and know how to lock these apps down as far as all of the security settings. Okay, the next couple are vault apps, V-A-U-L-T. And it is exactly what it sounds like. You create a vault on your phone to hide things from mom and dad. This one right here is one of the most popular ones. It's a calculator vault. It looks like a calculator icon on your phone. It works like a calculator until you type in a specific code. Then it opens up basically a hidden back door to your phone, and that's where you can store things you don't want mom and dad to see. It stores your inappropriate pictures, it stores your inappropriate apps, all sorts of stuff. There's this one. There's one that actually looks like a vault. This one is one of the more popular ones right here. They're just all vaults. If you, again, go on your Play Store, go on your Android store, Google Vault apps, V-A-U-L-T, and there'll be probably close to 1,000 of them now, I think, that'll pop up. The ones I showed you just happen to be the first 2 or 3 that come up as the most popular. And they look like other apps. They look like calculators. There's one that looks like, some stupid design, stuff like that. Xbox, PlayStation. You kids play those? They're awesome. They play online with people all over the world. It's kind of fun. They got the little headset on and they're doing whatever they're doing. Who's talking in their headset? Who's talking in their headset? Anybody? What are they saying in their headset? You have no idea because they got the headset on. Okay? Again, and these things are impossible to trace. If your kid says, "Oh my gosh, mom, dad, somebody just told me this, and that online." I'm sorry. There's not a darn thing you can do about it. Because again, these things are bounce servers all over the world. It could be somebody in Zimbabwe talking to your kid. We have no idea. Again, just be aware of what your kids are doing. My kids do it. My kids have it. There's just so many parents out there that don't even realize what their kids are doing. Just be aware of things like this. Know your kid's age, know their maturity level, and if this kind of thing is appropriate for them. I will tell you this, the more mature the games they're playing, the more mature the people are playing, and the verbiage and the language and everything else, winds up getting ugly. And a lot of times you may get that creeper on there that are saying real inappropriate things. Anybody do Pokemon Go anymore? Nobody? Your kids don't? All right. The thing about Pokemon Go when it came out was anybody could drop a pin and drop a Pokeball or whatever they call it. I never played a stupid game. They were finding in places around the country that pedophiles and people who were convicted of sex crimes against kids were playing this game and dropping Pokeballs in the area. So they were, oh no, I'm staying in my house, but they happen to drop a Pokeball in front of their house, and then all these teenage kids and all these little kids come flocking over in front of their house. Yeah, I know. So again, just be aware, if this thing ever comes back and your kids are running around the neighborhood like maniacs chasing Pokeballs, depending on their age, you might want to go with them and just kind of be aware of this kind of stuff. So, now that I scared the complete heck out of you, what do you do about it? Here we go. Step one, when you go home, grab your kid's phone, okay, and chuck it against the wall. And say, don't grow up, please ever. Could we all do that? Sure. Is it going to be reality? No. Here's the thing. Be aware. Number one, you're here, which is awesome. You're learning about some different things. You need to know what your kids' phone settings are. All right? There's two different kinds of phones out there that 99% of the people in the world have. You have an Android or you have an iPhone. We're going to go over both of them real quick. All right? Take notes because this is going to be the activity portion of the class. And I still have a few minutes. All right? So get your kids' phones. Know what their settings are and change them. And then again, what you have to do is have a conversation with your kids, because I promise you your kids are smarter than you are on these phones, and everything that I'm going to teach you how to change, they're going to change back tomorrow morning. So that's where you guys as the parents, you have this conversation. You say, we're doing this to your phone for your safety. You better not change it or else. And then you guys deal with whatever appropriate consequences you feel if your kids start going against you. So first thing we're going to do, the GPS settings. We're going to talk about the GPS settings on the Android phone. Now, I know a lot of people, they like when the GPS is on their kid's phone because it tracks my iPhone. The kids, they lose their phone, you can track it, and there's a bunch of cool parent apps out there for it. That's great. We're not going to kill the whole GPS system. You guys know how to do that. You go in there, turn off the GPS, and the whole thing is dead. But then you can't track your own kids. Were you aware that for every single app on your phone has the ability to turn on and off the GPS settings for each individual app? All 4,000 of them that are downloaded. Okay, so first off, on the Android phone, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your normal settings. You push the little thing that looks like a sprocket. If you have an Android, push the little sprocket. You're going to pop up settings, and then you're going to push the little button. You're going to push down here where it says apps. Then you're going to get a list of every single app that's on your kid's phone. One, it's a good place to look at all the apps as well. You can scroll through there because every app that's installed, will be on there. And if your kids have some of these hidden apps, they'll actually show up in this setting list. So this kind of does twofold. One, you can look and see what's on your kid's phone. And two, you go to the apps that you want to turn off. We're going to use Snapchat as the example today for all of our demonstrations. So you scroll down until you find Snapchat. Push it, and you're going to get the app info. And that tells you all the different things that's on your app. Here's the thing about it. You're going to push permissions. Little did you know, or maybe you know, or you push the button and never read what you push the button like most people in the world do, is when you install that app, you've already given the phone permission to access your camera, your contacts, your location, your microphone, your phone, your text messages, and your storage. You have to say yes to everything in order to download an app. But most people then don't go back in here and then undo what they just did. You say yes, you download it, then you can go back through and turn everything back off, and the app will still work. So you push permissions, and then you're going to get the screen. Then you're going to get a screen that looks similar to this, just depending on what version of phone you have. As you can see here, Snapchat, everything is on. Now, I don't want location. Location is the big one. That's your GPS. You turn it off. Now your kids, when they Snapchat, or they Twitter, or they Facebook, because you're going to have to do this one by one for every single app. It turns off the GPS, and you don't get a location signal when they use that app. Even though the GPS is still on for your Find My iPhone. You know, I think Android's got a good program like Life 360 or something for tracking your kids. So you can leave your GPS on for the apps you want them to, for you guys, and then turn them off for all this kind of stuff. Now obviously, your phone, your microphone and stuff, if you turn those off, the app doesn't work. So right now we're just dealing with the GPS. So that's the Android phone. Any questions on how to do that? Then you exit out, you open up settings again, you go to Facebook. Then you do it again, you go to Twitter. You do it again, you go to all these different apps. Got it? All right, iPhones. I had to use my kid's iPhone to screenshot these because I don't have one. Again, go into settings. It's a little bit different. You go into general. You're going to pull up a screen that looks similar to this. Location services. And as you can see, the location services is on for your entire phone. Again, if you want to keep that on for Find My iPhone and stuff, you leave that on, and then it gives you the list of all the different apps. Again, scroll down, find which app you want to use. Snapchat. And Snapchat has a little never or while using the app. And don't let that fool you. While using the app means it's on. Because as soon as you open up the app, then your GPS is on. So it'll never, only while using the app basically means yes. It's always on or off. So then check never. And again, it'll be the same thing. Find My iPhone works, your kid programs work, your Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that other stuff won't work. So, one thing I always tell everybody, and I tell my kids, there's no secrets when it comes to your kids' phones. Phone checks. Be honest with me, people. How many of you guys have honestly grabbed your kid's phone and say, I'm checking everything on it? Be honest. Okay? That's usually about normal, usually about half the room. You've got to do it. Because if you don't know what's going on there. And again, when you start looking at your kid's phone, you see what the apps are that your kids are using. If you don't know what the app is or it does, push it and open it and find out. If your kids are on a social media site and you're like, yeah, sure, you can have an Instagram. You better have an Instagram. And then you have the same apps that your kids have, and then you have your own account. And the rule should be you have to follow them and they have to follow you. So every time they post something, it pops up and you can actually see it. Okay?
But they won't accept us as...
Excuse me?
That's the tricky part, right? They won't accept us as friends in their friends.
Right. You have to be friends and they have to be friends with you. Once they're, my oldest one's 19, he pays his own bill, so he's kind of like by the wayside now. But, as long as they're still young and they're in your house and you pay all the bills and stuff, you should always know what they're doing because you got to be responsible for what they're up to. If your kids have a Twitter, you better have a Twitter. If your kids have an Instagram, you better have an Instagram. And again, the rule should be you follow me and I follow you so I can keep an eye on what you're doing. Okay? And again, this is going to come with a big conversation that your kids are going to have with your kids about keeping them safe out there, safe from the crazy world of cyberbullying and everything else, and some of the things that Brooke's going to talk about here in a few minutes. I'm going to blaze through some of this real quick. The thing about social media, again, you need to know what's going on your kids' phones and what they're doing because there's a lot of different warnings, a lot of different threats that wind up posted out there on social media. These are some old ones. Like here's one right here posted on Facebook. This kid right here from Maryland, actually this was his Facebook page with his name was Suicidal Smile. I mean, come on, hint, hint. Occupation is murder-suicide at the Manson family. The last thing he ever posted, first day of school, last day of my life, F the world. I blocked it out just for you guys. But yeah, and then he went and he did a school shooting. People see this kind of stuff. Here's Twitter. Okay, these are tweets. F it, might as well die just now. What the F did I just do? But here's the thing, look, June 20th. And it goes on, and on, and on. And these are just the highlights. October. For 4 months, this kid posted threats, suicidal comments, and basically help me on Twitter. All of his friends saw it. I mean, look at some of these numbers. Thousands of people see these tweets, and nothing happens until the next day he goes and he kills 4 people at his school. The information's out there. Back when we were kids, we would doodle on our notebooks and in our textbooks and stuff. Nowadays, it's these phones. The kids put their whole world out there on the phone. They cry for help out there on these phones. Here's a local one. On May 10th, my life has fallen apart in front of my own eyes and it's all my fault. The next day, I want my life back. Help. And then there's going to be a suicide in school right now. This is the kid that killed himself at Corona a couple years ago. Used to go to school here, went to Mount Point, but again, for 3 days, he basically tweeted help. If a kid says, I want my life back, that's a clue. That kid's screaming out for help. And for 3 days, he tweeted until he finally tweeted this while he was standing in the school with a gun to his head. I'm friends with the officer that was assigned there as the SRO at the time. She was standing no further away than me and Julianne when he did it. He's got the gun in one hand and he's tweeting in the other hand. I mean, this is how obsessed kids are with these phones and the social media. The last thing on earth he did before he pulled the trigger was tweet. Not turn around and look at the one person in the room that could help him. The last thing he did before he killed himself was send out a tweet. That's how obsessed kids are with social media. Their whole lives are on these things. Their whole lives they post. You have to be aware of what they're doing. You have to have all these accounts. I hate having all these accounts. I really do. Part of it's what I do for a living, and part of it is because I have teenagers. I hate the fact that I probably know more about some of this stuff than a lot of kids. Don't tell anybody. But I do. It's because we have to keep these kids safe. I hate it. And this is the mentality we have to get away from. We have to get away from the it's not going to happen here and teaching our kids not to talk mentality. Okay, here is what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Brooke and let her go, and then we'll do questions at the end. I want to make sure she's got enough time to do her presentation. Okay? Again, here's my information. Please Facebook, Twitter me. Sometimes it's the easiest way to get a hold of me, unfortunately. And we'll always send out a bunch of good information. And then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Brooke Barr.
All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on with what Kevin said that was important with have the apps. Know how to use the apps. All of us can download them all. Download Twitter, download Facebook, download Instagram, download Snapchat, but you've got to play. And the best way is to just get in there and mess with them. It's so frustrating. I mean, it's a full-time job for me as a mom, and it's not fun, but you have to know how to use them because all the different platforms, there's a huge wide range and variety of the things that you can do, and a lot of damage can be done. So my story, let's see if we had to condense this because we usually do our own presentation. So we just condensed this, but I want to talk about her. I was just in the room with the kids, so you guys know. Are all of your kids here tonight? That was a great turnout in there, by the way. It's almost double what we have in here. So I discussed everything that we're discussing tonight with them. Tried to have some dialogue with them, but they're kids. They're actually scary, really scary to talk to. Adults are so much easier. Kids scare me. But they were great. So this girl, I want to start out by talking about her because this is the kind of internet safety piece part of things. Her name is Elisa Kozak. Don't ask me how to spell it. It's like Kozakiewiczyk, I think. She is phenomenal. I met her last November. Not my kid brought her to Phoenix, and she did a presentation. Basically, since we have a lot less time to talk, I'll condense the story. But she is now 27 years old. She was 13 years old in this picture, and she was on MySpace. She had a friend. She January 1st, 2002. She and her friend, so let me back up. Her friend that she had was for 8 months. And it was this 16-year-old boy that she was talking to. They had never met before. They were just online friends through MySpace. And on January 1st, 2002, he said, hey, we've known each other for 8 months and it'd be cool to meet you. She's from Pennsylvania. She lived in Pennsylvania at the time. It was cold, January 1st. She had pajamas on, I think slippers or flip-flops. And she was just inside with her family having dinner on New Year's night. And her friend wanted to meet her, so she agreed to go meet him and said, I have to be back before dessert, so I'll just sneak out of the house real quick, come outside, say hi, all good. She goes outside, walks to the end of her driveway, and gets onto the street, and he's not there, so she turns back to go inside, and she was abducted by a 38-year-old very sick man who was this 16-year-old online. He throws her in the trunk of her car and drives across 4 state lines to West Virginia and proceeded to do some very, very, very sick, horrific things. When she was speaking to us, she stood at her podium and had the screens behind her. She cannot look at the pictures. I don't even know how she even tells the story, to be quite honest. She's a hero in my book. But he got her completely naked and tied her up by a chain, a dog chain, to a bed on a concrete floor, and did some horrific things and filmed it all in basically a chat room for perverts, sickos. The things that he did to her were so horrific that somebody in the chat room, who was actually there to see children being molested, abused, raped, beaten, was so disturbed by it that he turned this guy in. The FBI was able to rescue her on the day that she was supposed to be murdered. They found out that on the 5th day he worked and he was gone at work, and he was supposed to kill her that next day. He basically had his fun with her and was supposed to just, kill her and dispose of her. She shows, as she's speaking and standing up, she shows this image behind her of all of the torture devices that he used on people, and it is an entire wall in a bedroom, an entire wall and half of another wall of just torture devices, just metal and chains and whips and just crazy, sick things. But I like to tell that story just because, this was back, 15 and a half years ago. But how easy it is for our kids, she was 13 years old, how easy it is for our kids to, fall victim to this and to have friends. I just asked in the room when I was with the kids, how many of them speak to people that they don't know online, and not one out of the 60-ish that are in there, not one person admitted to it. And I didn't expect them to, but we all know that our kids are talking to people that they don't know, whether it's through Xbox. I have a son who plays on Xbox. He's 11. And I am extremely strict. We'll literally go up to him while he picks up, or while he's playing the Xbox, and I'll pick up his headphones and start talking to the people online. And we had a scare once. He was like, "Yeah, I'm playing with such and such." I knew him in 2nd grade. My son's in 6th grade. Really? You remember somebody from 2nd grade? Where does he go now? I don't know. This wasn't a kid he went to school in 2nd grade with, but this is what this man was telling him. So that was scary for me, and I'm an advocate. I'm out here doing this kind of stuff, so it happens to the best of us. Now Alicia is 27. She travels the world. She travels the United States. She speaks. She works for the ID channel, I think it's called. It's one of the... but it's called ID channel. But she's a lot of fun to follow on Facebook. She's doing great things. She's acting. She's, just got married. She's 27 years old, and she just graduated with her master's in psychology, which I just think is absolutely amazing to come out of what she went through, because let's face it, that would put most of us down for good. This is Michelle Carter. Can you see her picture? It wasn't showing up in the other room either. I don't know what's happening with the slide, but are you familiar with Michelle? Whoa. No. There we go. Michelle Carter. Are you guys familiar with her? Okay. She is the gal that was just convicted and sentenced for convincing her boyfriend to commit suicide. Yeah. So she clearly she's a psychopath. I mean, she's not our typical girl teenager that has some issues. I have a 15-year-old daughter, guys, and she isn't nothing compared to this, and I think she's out there and wild. But she convinced her boyfriend to get back in the truck, and this was happening over a long period of time, but she just got convicted. Now, she got a sentence of 2.5 years, I believe. It's not a very big sentence, but the reason I mention this and bring this up is because that just set a precedence for where we are. When we get into why I'm here and kind of why I started speaking in my story, my story was 3.5 years ago, and what happened to us was insane then, and it's mild and not even a big deal anymore. So this kind of stuff is where our kids are headed with the things they say, the things they do, how they act, what they post online. And so we have to be very careful, because I know that we don't want to be in the news. Her parents, I don't know what the story is on her parents. I'm not going to judge that, but I know that her life, the boy that she convinced to commit suicide, his life absolutely forever changed. And if we don't think that there's going to be more stories like that, I think we're sorely mistaken. And it could be our community. I don't need to go over this stuff. I think Kevin's great. I'm sure he covered a lot of it. As far as cyberbullying laws in Arizona, we still have a long way to go. Just like with the apps. The minute we catch up and we figure out how to learn them, then there's something else. Our technology is here and our laws are here. There's no way that our laws can catch up with where we need to be. And the big problem, and he might have touched on this, I wasn't in the room, but the big problem that we have is the jurisdiction. Most of these apps that our kids are using are not created in the United States. Musically is not, it's overseas. So have something happening, let's say your 9-year-old daughter is in her little jammies like he was talking about, and she's being innocent, truly innocent, but she's got short shorts on in her panties and she's dancing around talking, and she's lip syncing to a video, and this gets out onto, let's say her parents didn't have the settings, because it is something where anybody around the world can see if you don't lock it down real tight, and somebody sees this. Sorry, just lost my train of thought with Musically. Oh, so something happens to your child. The location services is there. If we try to go after, and find out if something happened to our child, there's no jurisdiction because it's all overseas. So the law enforcement has a really hard time and struggles with being able to go after when people do things. And we'll talk about that with my case, what happened with mine. So this is a movie. It's a really good movie. I like to keep it in the presentation. It's a few years old now, but it's very important. If you guys want to take a screenshot, write it down. It's on Netflix, so it's free. I've seen probably every movie about bullying that exists out there. This is phenomenal. I saw it actually in a movie theater and liked it and was moved by it so much that I wanted to bring it to the community. And I was working with some people, some Ocotillo friends was helping me out, kind of pricing the theaters out, and we were just figuring out, how can we pull this off? How can we bring this movie to the community? And it was already out of the theaters by the time I started thinking about it. It was just in for one weekend. It was a low-budget film. It's about suicide and cyberbullying. It's intense. If you have young children, I say watch it first. My son is 11. He's my baby, and he's seen it. Poor kid hears a lot, so he hears a lot from me and he sees a lot. But I just always recommend watching it first. It's phenomenally done. It's a movie, but the way it's filmed, it makes it look like a documentary is being filmed. It's intense. It starts off with a young girl attempting suicide, and then she's in a coma the entire film. I don't want to ruin it, but the reason why I like it so much is that it's such a good learning tool, but it really breaks down just one sec. It really breaks down the bully and the victim. And I think with a lot of our movies that we're seeing these days and the stuff that's put out there is we are so focused on the victimization. I mean, I personally, in my opinion, I think that we live in a world where everybody's the victim and poor me and woe me. We need to step out of that mentality and teach our kids to be strong and, resiliency. And that could be a whole nother night that we could talk about that. But it's awesome because the way that they portray this, it just really shows why this girl is bullying and why she drove this girl to kill herself. And it's, got a decent ending, but highly recommend watching that. And checking out, and it's a great movie to watch with your kids too. Great film to watch with your kids. That's my daughter. Her name is Reve. She goes to Perry. I wish she went here, but she doesn't. 3.5 years ago, it was Memorial Day weekend, and my daughter was in 6th grade, where my son is now at the same age. She was 12. And it was the last few days of school. And, sorry, I'm gonna steal my water. I just got that out of the box.
Get out of the box.
Sorry. My mouth's dry. It was on a Sunday night on Memorial Day weekend, and we only had 2 days of school, because in Chandler we go back to school for 2 days after Memorial Day. We had 2 days of school left, and I was on my Instagram just scrolling through, and a friend of mine who works for the Arizona Cardinals, an adult male, had posted a photo of like Larry Fitzgerald or one of the players, and I had seen my daughter's name had liked the photo. I thought, that's interesting. My daughter's not on Instagram. Now, previously, 3 months prior, she did have an Instagram account. She was being a typical 12-year-old and wasn't listening to my rules. So I took it away from her and I banned her from it. So I'm on, this picture, and I see her name, and it's unique. It's Reve O'Sheal. I don't know if I put it up there. Reve O'Sheal, and I thought, that's interesting. There's nobody in the world with this name. And so I clicked on the account, and it was a pretty legit looking account. It had 35 photos of me and my daughter, my family and my son, and just 35 photos of us. And called my ex-husband up and said, hey, did you let her have the account? He said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And got on the phone with her, and instead of, I've learned a lot in the past few years, instead of just asking her and giving her a chance to tell me she didn't do it, I completely freaked out on her and told her she's busted and she's grounded and all these different things, and it wasn't her. She says, Mom, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I screenshot it after I realized what was going on. I screenshot it and I put it up on my Instagram. Now, at the time, I still am private, but my stuff's really locked down. But I was private on Instagram, but all these photos were for my Instagram. So that was a pretty scary feeling because somebody was taking these photos off of my account and they were following me. And I didn't have, I don't have a lot of followers. So I screenshot that account and I put it on both my Instagram and my Facebook account. And I said, hey, whoever's impersonating my child, you better watch your back because I will come after you and I will find you and it won't be pretty. I actually wear this necklace now that says Mama Bear. I think it's my official speaking necklace because that was basically, what happened. Like that instant feeling of like, I need to kill somebody right now because this is scary. Not literally. So I put it up on my Instagram, I put it up on my Facebook, and I started getting these direct messages. At the time, Instagram had just been bought out by Facebook and that direct messaging feature had just came about. So I started getting messages from kids saying, I got this message from your daughter. And there was probably 5 or 6 messages. And they were vulgar. I don't need to repeat them. I know we're being recorded and it's going to go up on the website. But they were vulgar messages. And it was really scary. It kind of freaked me out. And called. Well, the next morning, I went to bed that night, it was late, went to bed, woke up the next morning and had more messages that were coming through. So all these kids were thinking that my daughter was just this horrible, rotten person, and this person was saying, go kill yourself, and you're nothing but a bleep, 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 bleep. So I called Gilbert Police Department and said, somebody's stolen my kid's identity. And they said, no, that's not a stolen identity. There's no financial gain being made. So they suggested that I get on with Instagram and I, do my thing there and get the account shut down. Instagram is owned by Facebook. It's impossible to get a hold of them. You cannot look up a phone number and call Instagram and talk to them. Have to go online. I had to prove to them that this wasn't her account. She didn't do this. I did. It was shut down and they sent me an email and said, good luck to you, and sent me on my way. And then I emailed the person I was dealing with back and I said, absolutely not. Now I want to trace the IP address. This is my naivete. He said, no, well, you need a subpoena or search warrant in order to do that. So I just put my boots back on and said, all right, I'm going to do some research, and researched some ARS statutes and came up with something close to impersonation. Got back with the Gilbert Police Department, told them that, somebody's impersonating my daughter, please, begging, just please, somebody help me. Like, this is scary. I don't know who's doing this. And was just told no, 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 every time I turned around. Somebody had happened to, because I was very vocal about it on my Facebook and my Instagram page, somebody had known about it and actually went to her house to pick up some jewelry. And she said, what's going on with your Instagram story? And she had a connection to Stephanie Hawkridge from Channel 15 and said that my story should probably be told. I agreed to it. She came over. She recorded us. On a Tuesday, it aired on a Wednesday night. It was a pretty big story. They gave us, quite a bit of airtime. And by the time I woke up the next morning, all of the New York stations were calling me. And our story went national. And Good Morning America, New York Daily News, and then it just spiraled from there. I want to show you guys. No, let me skip a couple of these. This is it. Oh, is there no sound?
No, there's sound. It was working before you walked in.
I have a...
It was on, Jay. Jay, cut the sound working.
Well, I'll let him mess with it and then kind of see what happens. So yeah, it got really big, and my life was wild and crazy for about a month. It was, they did a really good job of telling our story, but still nothing was being done. Nothing was happening. Nothing was changing. I still didn't know who was doing this. And pretty much at that point, I was just praying that I was just going to have, some really good luck. About a month goes by. The great thing about, I like to show this. Oh, perfect timing.
We're going to move on to the heat index now. First up, imagine an imposter pretending to be your child online, cyberbullying your child's schoolmates, and then you learn the law can't do a thing about it. It's a new kind of identity theft, and ABC's Lindsay Janis has the story.
It's cute.
Brooke Barr was looking at her Instagram account one evening when she saw that her 12-year-old daughter, Reve O'Sheil, had liked one of her photos. But Brooke had banned her daughter from using the social network months ago.
I called her dad and asked if he let her back onto Instagram, let her open up an account. He said no.
That's when Brooke realized someone was pretending to be Reve. The impersonator used photos from Brooke's account. Then came the phone calls from Reve's friends claiming they'd been sent nasty messages.
I was just in shock, like someone would do this.
One of the posts full of profanity.
The reason why I said a 10% because you are such a brat and like you think you're popular, but you're not. So stop acting like one and you will never be one because you are such a.
Her mom spoke with one of the girls who was targeted.
She had tears in her eyes, and that's when I told her we're gonna find out who it is.
Brooke had the fake Instagram account taken down, but the company told her if she wanted to find out who was behind it, she'd need a subpoena or a search warrant. Police told her that wasn't possible because Reve hadn't been harassed herself.
So police say this young girl is not the victim of a crime. How can that be?
Arizona is not one of the states that has a specific law that makes it a crime to impersonate someone online. The ones with the real power here would be the people who got the messages, who could say profane language was used. This is harassment. This would fall under Arizona's cyberbullying law. And as a result, then the police could get involved.
Brooke says she hopes the kids that were bullied will go to the police.
I really want to find out who this is.
And it's great to welcome Erica Suter and Lara back to the table here from the Stir.com. And Erica, I had not heard about this before. A lot of parents aware of this?
Right. Well, a lot of parents think of cyberbullying. They're imagining someone sending nasty tweets or mean Facebook messages to their kid. They're not thinking that someone is impersonating them. So the usual defense is to, take your kid off of social media, not allow them to have Twitter accounts. But in this instance, it won't work because they're creating the accounts.
How common is this?
It's more common than people think. I was actually following a case in Minnesota of a 6th grader who a friend of me created an account and started sending nasty messages under that person's name. Well, the messages became threatening in nature, so then the police got involved. And those kinds of cases are setting up a change in the laws. More and more states are enacting laws that make impersonation a crime, like Texas, New York, Hawaii. But more and more states haven't jumped on that bandwagon yet.
So what can parents do if the law is not in their corner?
Well, there are 3 things. The first thing you need to do is talk to your kid. Sit down with them, find out how they feel, how they're coping with it, but then also if they have an idea of who is doing this. The second thing is go to the school. It's likely that they're not the only child that's being affected. So talk to the administration and see if something's going on. And then third, check and see the laws in your area and whether or not there's something that can be done legally. And if not, get the parents together and change the laws.
All right, Erica, that sounds good. We appreciate it very much.
Oh, here's the trailer to that movie I was talking about. I forgot this was in here. I'll let you guys watch it. Maybe.
You make my life so miserable just by being here, and I'm gonna make your life miserable too. Seriously, Jessica, if you disappeared, the world would be a better place. Just go end yourself.
In whispers it's been talked about, but no one knows the specifics.
There was a girl who was constantly picking on her. There was this one girl named Avery. I mean, she doesn't seem mean, but when she's around Jessica, she just sort of changes.
I guess people are talking about me being a mean person, thinking that I'm a bitch. And I don't know what makes them say that.
Jessica was absolutely being bullied. I can prove it. We had hidden cameras. We got it all.
I just don't know why she hates me so much.
I did not tell her to go do what she did. This girl did this to herself.
Promise that I wouldn't show anybody. Well, I'm breaking that promise right now.
Has anybody in here seen it? Nobody? Okay, you guys have to do this. You guys have to watch it. It was cool when I had seen the movie and wanted to do it in the community and kind of started working, and then found out that it was no longer in the community, or the theater, sorry. I reached out to the director. I was like, oh, let's find the director's email. Reached out to him and said, what do I need to do? It was a woman in Michigan. What do I need to do to make this happen, to bring it to my community? I was able to bring it to Pollock Theaters at the Dollar Theaters in Tempe, and just because I was posting it and talking about it, I was excited about it, I was raising some money to make it happen because it took a few $1,000s to pull this off. Somebody I knew Jimmy Bennett, the boy in the film, and he was able to Skype us in to the theater, and we were able to ask some questions. So it was really, really cool. I truly just, the movie is phenomenal, so I really recommend and encourage you guys to watch it, because it's just a good talking point, and it's hard. I'm probably say that. Everybody that I have watch it like will message me and text me and say, you didn't warn me, and like they were sobbing, even men. Like it's just a hard film to watch, and they did a really good job with it. Well, that's me and my girl. So back to what happened with after the story went viral. About a month goes by, and it gets quiet, very quiet. And I just figure, okay, that was the wildest, craziest 2 months of my life. And I was at work one day and got a phone call from a detective with the Maricopa County Attorney General's office. I thought I was in trouble. I was like, uh-oh, what did I do? And he said, just, hey, give me a call back. And I called him back, and he said, we just want to let you know that we saw your story locally, and then we saw that it, blew up and went big and national, and we just basically wanted to tell you that we got you a subpoena from a grand jury. And they were able to trace the IP address. That whole process took about 5 months. So think about that, how long that took and how hard it was for me. I don't think I'm special. I don't think I'm great. I just think, like my necklace says, Mama Bear. And I think I just wasn't going to take no for an answer. This is a really sick, disgusting feeling, knowing that there was somebody out there. And the crazy thing was when this detective came to my house to interview us and to kind of tell us how the process was going to go, he asked me, okay, like, who are your enemies? Well, I don't know, like, asked me about family members. And I was like, what do you mean, family members? And he says he sees this all the time. Family members will set other family members up and do stuff like this. He asked me if I was a cheer mom. A lot of moms that are in cheer, and their daughter comes home and they talk about the other girl that's, popular and this and that and this. So these are the thoughts that I had to carry and I had to hold. And then I had to send my kid, well, just for a couple days back to school. And we had that whole summer off. But then, in July, we go back to school in July in Chandler, and I had to send my kid to school, and not knowing who this was, but knowing full well that it was somebody that she went to school with. I knew that. When my daughter did get on Instagram, I said, hey, she was 12. I'm going to be friends with your friends, and if they want to be friends with me. So it was great. My son's 11 now. Social media is not happening for him for years, many years. I know 8, 9, and 10-year-olds that get on social media and their parents let them. I try to promote non-judgment, but I might judge you if your kid's 8, 9 years old and has an iPhone, and there's just too much that can happen. We don't even need to go into the brain talk. I'm sure you guys have heard that, where their brains are, that they can't process the stuff that happens to them. But it was crazy. It was wild. A full year, almost to the day of when it happened. It happened on May 25th of 2014. Full year later, I got a call from a prosecutor saying, we're really sorry, there's nothing that we can do to this girl. She was 12 years old, I think, by the time she had turned 13, but there was nothing, and I didn't want to see her go to prison for the rest of her life, but I just really wanted, a change to be made and something like a precedent to be set. Now, things are a little bit different in our state, but it's not, just an easy answer. What I was telling the kids in there was, when this happened 3.5 years ago, this story was huge. I mean, this was like massive, what was going on, and we were just all, everybody in my circle and people who knew about it was appalled, and now it's mild what our kids are dealing with and the things that they're up against. So I really want to stress that the things that kids are doing to these days to each other and how brave they are online. I call, when people were online and people make comments and, they get all tough and strong, and I call them keyboard cowboys. They can say everything. We all go onto any news site and any share on social media, and you'll see it. We have to really raise our kids to be kind, and more importantly to watch what they say online, because it is used against you, whether it be in school sports, whether it be college scholarships, college sports. You know, it's so important. Like Kevin was saying earlier with the apps and online stuff. It's a full-time job, guys. And the way I look at it now with my son at 11, I don't want that full-time job. So he's not, I do have a phone at my house. I don't have a house phone, but I have a cell phone that was my daughter's that I took away from her that just sits at the house, and its major restrictions are set on it. But I just don't want that headache, and I really just want to keep the innocence because our innocence in our kids is lost. I strongly truly believe that our kids, and it's our fault. I think the hardest thing the thing I struggle with the most right now is that we're all the kids these days, and we put them down, and I see it, I hear it everywhere. I speak at a lot of different things, and we all bash the kids, not we all as in, this room, but as a society, we bash our kids, but who's doing it? Who's giving them the phones when they're 8, 9, 10 years old? Who's letting them be on social media? Over the summer, I'll admit, I was the worst parent in the world because it's hot here. You play the Xbox, play your iPad, like obviously I'm doing things and, staying engaged with them, but we all fail. Nobody's perfect, and, I'm not trying to say that at all, but I'm so glad that fall's here because we can start being outside and, enjoying the weather. Yeah.
So I can't remember, Brooke, what happened to the girl? Did you
Nothing.
know her? Was it one of her babies?
Yeah, she would just go with her. Oh, yeah. So she was in 6th grade with her. They weren't friends. What the detective told me once they interviewed the family and they interviewed her, she was jealous of my daughter. They really didn't, they knew of each other. They weren't even in the same homeroom class because back then, the 6th grade, they actually broke them up. Now at my son's school, they just keep him in one class, but they broke them up to try to prepare him for junior high. So they had him go one homeroom teacher and then go 4 teachers throughout the day. So they were in school together. Then, to add insult to injury, they had to go to junior high together, 7th and 8th. And then finally, when they got to high school, we're in different boundaries, and so they separated. And we've never had a problem with her since. But yeah, nothing happened to her. I've never heard from the parents. I can tell you that if my child did that, it'd be child abuse, dragging him by the ears to the door, and we'd have, serious problems if my kids were acting like that. But I've never heard from the mom, the dad, nothing. Yeah, it's kind of wild. You had a question earlier. I'm sorry, I didn't get. You were raising your hand.
Did you answer that?
What's that?
Did you answer that question?
Oh, I answered it. Perfect.
But my question was on that movie was it meant for kids and a lot of parents, but you said for kids too.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And then let me know when I'll wrap up, and I want to talk to these guys about something, but I don't want the camera rolling, if that's okay. I just don't want it shared publicly. So that's her. That's my little girl. I think did I skip something earlier? Oh, yeah. I just wanted to show this, and I put this in here. Somebody actually got after me for doing this once, a complete stranger, because they thought it was not appropriate. But I don't want to act like, this has been the absolute worst experience, because a lot of really amazing things have happened. Oh, this is my daughter. A lot of really amazing things have happened. We were asked to be a part of this thing called the Tapestry movement a couple years ago, and a girl, she's local, she writes music and sings it, and she wanted to write a song about my daughter and 2 other girls that have gone through things and faced adversity. And the song is Tapestry, about just overcoming things that we go through in life. So it's not just meant for kids, but it was a really cool project to be a part of. And this is my girl.
Since we found out that I had Tourette syndrome, it took a whole year to process and figure out if I really was diagnosed, because I had to go through all these MRIs, and ever since then our lives have changed. Ever since I was 7 years old, everything has been different. I have had physical bullying, and I've been cyberbullied. I know people are out there that have the same challenge as me and struggles, but sometimes I just feel like I'm the only person in the world that has only had this happen to and is happening to. But once I really think about it, I know I'm not the only person out there. If I found out that a little girl or a little boy had Tourette syndrome, I would help them and encourage them to keep moving forward, and just don't look down and look up, and just always look at the bright side on things. Yes, it's a struggle having Tourette syndrome, but I'm kind of thankful for it. It's a part of my life, and it just makes me who I am. My name is Rajani. I'm 12 years old, and I am part of Tapestry.
So that was kind of what they were doing, and they had the 3 different girls that were part of this kind of describe who they were. I think I forgot to mention that she has Tourette syndrome. So my daughter's been through a lot. In 4th and 5th grade, she was physically bullied, and the school wasn't doing anything about it. It was a small charter school. So that's why we left and came to Chandler schools. This song was the one that was written. Did we miss it? Oh, I thought I went through everything though. Sorry, guys. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So I share it because it's cool to be a part of something like that, but just to kind of show our journey and what it does to our kids when they've been through a lot.